Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Rock Talk with the DocRocker. I am Jeff Bonomo, joined once again in the Zoomiverse with the DocRocker himself, Dan Tenarlato. It's been a couple of weeks again. How are you doing, sir?
It has been a couple of weeks. Yeah, things have been hectic. It's been a really busy, hectic, crazy summer, I think, for lots of people, between vacations and us finally kind of blossoming into this lovely post-COVID world where things are starting to open back up. You know, at least speaking in terms of the end of July 2021, I know lots of people in Pennsylvania are being fully vaccinated, so there's a lot more going out and doing stuff. You know, so I know I've been busy. You know, I've been back out into the field teaching lessons at people's homes and doing all that whole thing. So it's been hectic. It's been crazy. It's been busy. And there's been lots going on in the rock and roll world the last couple of weeks. So we have a lot to catch up on.
There's a lot of stuff been going on. A lot of stuff that hasn't been good, really, honestly.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a bit of a sad episode, folks. So strap in.
Yeah.
A lot of death.
We're going to talk about a lot of deaths in the rock world, the rock and metal world. There was a lot of people just dropping. And I just want to say to the gods of rock and roll, please stop doing this to us. Like,
yeah. Can you please stop killing famous rock musicians for 5 minutes, please?
Yes, please.
I think of that Shrek meme all the time.
But first, we'll do something a little bit happier. What we're going to do right now is we're going to go through the Rock Talk with DocRocker Facebook group, because that has been very active in the last couple of weeks. So we're going to touch on some of that stuff and some of the posts that you have been doing. And if you're not a member, of course, go to Facebook and join Rock Talk with the DocRocker Facebook group. We have 711 members. And
the number keeps growing. I love it.
Yeah, we can hit 1,000, I'm sure, very, very soon. So
definitely.
Let's start off. Start off.
There's a bunch of stuff. I know I'm posting a bunch of stuff. Jeff's posting a bunch of stuff. A lot of our members are getting really involved too and posting all kinds of really cool stuff. So what do you want to talk about first?
Well, we're going to start off with something happier than death. You posted this, and I really love this idea. You're throwing your own backyard music fest. You can invite any 3 bands or musicians, past or present, I guess dead or alive. Who are you booking in your backyard music festival? I love these discussions because sometimes they take some weird turns. And
we've had a lot of interesting answers to this question on the board.
Yeah. So what are yours?
All right. Well, I posted this a couple weeks back. This was the first week of July. So I, of course, being a big prog music guy, I'd love to book Kansas because they are phenomenal live. I've seen them multiple times, and they're probably my favorite band to see live. So they're on there. Dream Theater is on there because they're another big famous progressive band I'm really into. For me, I put Steve Vai as the headliner because I feel like he would do a real knockout headliner performance. I've seen all of these bands perform. I've seen Steve Vai. I saw him perform in Harrisburg when he did the 25th anniversary of Passion and Warfare a couple years ago, and he played the whole album cover to cover. And honestly, if he just did that for a headlining show with Kansas and Dream Theater, I would crap my pants because it would be fantastic. As far as who would go first, Kansas or Dream Theater, I put Kansas first when I wrote the post, but the more I thought about it, the more I'm kind of tossing and turning between which band should be first or second. You know, usually the second band will get a bigger set, more time, so I'm thinking maybe switching it so that Kansas can go later so they can do. Naturally, when I saw them is when they did the anniversary, I forget how many years, 40, I think, for Left Overture and Point of No Return, where they played both albums cover to cover, starting with Carry On Wayward Son and going all the way to Hopelessly Human off of Point of No Return. And that was awesome. So I really don't know, but I think it would be a really fun, colorful show. Lots of great talent on the stage, phenomenal musicianship. It would be a really long show, and that would not bother me the slightest. I would get comfy.
Well,
that would be my lineup.
You put Kansas first. Is that what you said? You put Kansas first?
Initially, yeah, but I'm not sure I want to keep it that way. That's the problem.
I would say you put Kansas first because they're older and they want to go to sleep earlier.
Good logic. What about you? What would your lineup be? I forget. Did you put an answer to this on the?
Someone said that they mentioned my cover band.
Oh, that's right. There were a couple posts.
Ostrich Cartoon and 2 for 1. We're a bunch of local cover bands. Cartoon is probably one of the best local cover bands in northeastern Pennsylvania.
Oh,
and
definitely.
So Joanne Dormer said Ostrich Cartoon and her band 2 for 1, and I was like, well, let's make it happen, you know. Actually, I don't think I responded to this one.
Yeah, I'm looking down the list now. I'm not seeing you, but
there's another one, Ostrich Prince and Kiss. Okay. We're in good
You
company
ever
there.
thought you'd open up for Prince?
Yeah, Prince would open up for us, right? He'd be so mad. He'd be so mad because he'd be like, "Leave me alone," and we wouldn't leave him alone. We'd probably make fun of him and stuff because he's just a little guy. And then he would start playing guitar, and we'd all shut up.
Yes, exactly. It would be awesome.
No, I would go with I would probably go with like Maiden.
Okay.
Maiden would be the headliner, of course. Halloween would be second.
Ooh.
You know, and to open up the show, oh God, the reunited Solitude Aeternus.
Okay.
And it would be a doom metal band and then 2 power metal bands, because why not?
Yeah, exactly. Why not?
and you know, that's, you know, 3 of my favorite singers right there. So
yeah, and there have been some real incredible lineups that people have posted that I'm seeing as we're scrolling down here. Going back real quickly to some local talent, I got a real nice touching post from Trish Lombardo. You know, Kansas, Hart, and if Matt Magasco were still with us, have him and his band play. For those of you who don't know, Matt Magasco was a legend in Northeast PA for many, many years as a rock musician, keyboard player. He was my piano teacher growing up, and he unfortunately passed away untimely a few years ago. And we still feel that hole in the music scene today. We had a really nice benefit concert. Osterchat played for it. I played with Osterchat for the event, and it was really, really nice. And if he was still here, he would definitely be still rocking, still kicking butt, and still playing incredible music. So big shout out to Matt. Big shout out to Trish for making that post. Very, very touched.
Absolutely a legend. And, you know, going back and just mentioning that benefit we did, there was so much talent in that room that day.
That place was packed.
You know?
That place was packed.
And it was packed with talent. I mean, I was, you know, I felt like, should I even be here? That's how I felt at some points. You know, you had pretty much every great musician in Northeastern Pennsylvania in the last, you know, 45 years coming up. We're people that were 21 years old, and there was people that were, you know, 71 years old.
Yeah.
Playing, that day. There were so many people that came just to either see us or to play for the first time in a long time.
Or we had come pay their respects, you know, come to the nation. You know, it was all fundraised to, you know, to get money to support all the funeral expenses that we needed to get for Matt. So it was a really nice event. I still look back and that fortunately, thank God himself, it was right before the pandemic set in. So we finally got to squeeze in one last little swan song for Matt before the entire world shut down for a year. So very bittersweet.
A couple other ones, Maiden, Blind Guardian, King Diamond, and Jimmy Buffett will be the bartender. That's what Greg says.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Gotta love it, you know.
Yeah, another cool lineup with Maiden. Jake Jugas mentioned putting Rainbow in the Dio era with them.
Yeah,
with King X for a full set.
King's X is a great band, man. I mean, they don't get enough credit. King's X is a killer trio. I can't say enough good things about them. And if you haven't heard King's X before and you like prog rock, you got to check out King's X. They're fantastic. You know, Jake's my boy from Florida. Jake's a great guy. I would love to get him on the podcast sometime. He has a lot of metal knowledge that I would love to pick his brain about. So Jake, would like to come on someday.
That sounds great. Yeah, hit us up, man. Send either me or Jeff a Facebook message if you want to get in touch, and we'll get you the Zoom link so you can log in with us, and we can have a nice chat one of these weeks. That could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, anyone that wants to do it, man. Anyone wants to do it. I like when we have guests on, you know?
Yeah, guests are fun. And we've had a number of really awesome guests in the past, and definitely plan to keep doing that.
Here's another question that was posed not too long ago on our board. What one album you feel is a must listen for all musicians, no matter what style or genre you usually listen to or play? This is a great question. Now, I ask you this. This question was for musicians, but just music lovers in general. Like, I'll say, like, what album would you need to listen to? If you love rock music, we'll say, like, there's a couple albums I would definitely say, not necessarily like they're musically crazy or anything, but and I don't think I answered this question either. I don't think I got a chance to post on this one, but I'll say right now, there's a couple that were mentioned that I agree with, like Appetite for Destruction. No matter what you're into, man, I think listening to that album is like almost a must. Either if you're a musician or just a music lover, I'd say that one. I would say going and seeing where Appetite came from, I would listen to Nazareth, Hair of the Dog. That album was like the forerunner to what that Guns N' Roses sound is. It just popped into my head when I saw that question, you know. And plus, of course, like you said, what Kansas album you mentioned?
For me, the no-brainer was Point of No Return. That album.
Point of No Return. Yeah.
Funny enough, you know, I saw a couple people posted Appetite for Destruction as an answer to that question. And as much as I am an absolute Guns N' Roses freak and I love Appetite, it's one of my top 10 favorite albums of all time, I'm not sure I would feel confident recommending that to any music lover ever, like counting even like classical musicians or jazz musicians, like getting out of the bubble of rock. I wouldn't point those people in the direction of Guns N' Roses. Like anyone who's
like, I say a rock fan.
Like a rock fan, absolutely. But as far as any music lover ever, I don't think that's true. But that doesn't
if you're
bad about Appetite. Appetite's awesome.
Yeah, if you're enjoying, if you're like a jazz musician lover and you're like, here, listen to Guns N' Roses, like,
you'll probably hate it, honestly. You know, I can think of a lot of close friends, people like around my age group, you know, people I like went to school with, you know, at the college level, that like if I pointed them in the direction of this, they'd be like, what the hell are you listening to, man? Really? You're listening to this after all of our intense training? It's like, yeah, dude, it's Guns N' Roses. They're awesome. How could you not like this? You know, I can understand.
Yeah, well, Jesse Portnovo mentioned Guns N' Roses, and I agree with Jesse completely. That is definitely an album I would give out to a music lover or a musician who wants to, you know, play in the rock genre. Next to him is Kurt Lowe, the legendary singer and lead guitar player for the band Complete. Kurt Lowe says anything from Led Zeppelin. Now, if you haven't heard Kurt Lowe's band Complete, you have to check them out. They are, like to call outsider rock, but man, are they good. And they're an internet phenom. Let me tell you, man, Kurt Lowe's a great guy. I've been talking to him online for a long time, and when he comes out to speak, you know, I have to listen to him. I agree. There's so much by Led Zeppelin. Like, I would almost pick any of the 4 albums, really. You know, say here's some musical education for you. Rob Valentine says Dream Theater Scenes from Memory Part 2. I agree. Yeah, I agree. If you're a musician and you want to listen to prog metal, Scenes from a Memory, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely among Dream Theater's strongest output, holistically speaking.
Straightforward, you know, rock again, going back to that AC/DC Back in Black. I mean, can you get much better than that? As far as that, like, just straightforward driving, no nonsense rock songs. That's, you know, there you go. Billy Letcher says the Eagles Hotel California. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Al Walton, he loves King Crimson, this guy, and he's just like, look, Fractured by King Crimson. Yes, okay, in a way, but, you know, yeah, it may deter some.
I really don't know King Crimson's music all that well. They're like one of those bands that are still like eluding me, where I just have to sit down one day and go through a bunch of their stuff, because I know I would love it. Any snippet of old school King Crimson stuff that I've heard, I was always like, wow, this is like really cool, and it's like real mind bendy and that kind of fun stuff. And then I just don't listen to the rest of it, and I should. I know I'm doing myself a big disservice. But
yeah, definitely check it. I definitely check it out. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's. That was a pretty neat little thread there. So let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Master of Reality, the Black Sabbath album, 3rd studio album. It turned 50 a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I think.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I think that was one of your posts.
Yeah, because I really like this album, and it was the only Black Sabbath album to land a spot in the top 10 in the U.S. charts until 13 was released 42 years later. And it's the first one, I believe. During the recording sessions, Tony Iommi tuned his guitar down a full step and a half to C sharp.
Standard C sharp, very heavy.
To create an especially dark tone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, a lot of people say that's like where doom metal started, you know, like to do that detune and get that real, that's when Sabbath really became what they are. And that was like, you know, then Volume 4 came along after this, and that's another album that's very doomy. But I'd say Master Reality I like better. After Forever is my favorite track on there. Pretty much every track on that album is great. Even Sweet Leaf, you know. the one everyone knows, or Children of the Grave. That's a great album. If you haven't really listened to that one either, got to. Yeah, and from beginning to end, Master Reality.
I'm looking at it now. I don't think this one wasn't one of my homeworks, was it?
No, I gave you Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and you were like, eh.
Yeah, I remember whatever Sabbath album you gave me, I wasn't really super all about. And I saw this post. I was like, was this the one that I listened to? And I'm looking at it now, and I don't think that was the case.
No, I
don't know if I've ever heard this all the way through.
You should, though. You should. Yeah. I'm sure you know the famous ones, like Children of the Grave is on there, I think.
That one, right? I know. Yeah.
Yeah, Sweet Leaf's on there. But After Forever is a killer song. The whole album, I think, is great. But yeah, I would check it out if you haven't really listened to it. It's
yeah, I definitely will.
It's definitely heavier than the most of the stuff on Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. It's not like they stretched out on that album and they added keyboards and this and that. This one is like, well, like I said, he down to a full step and a half, and he's like, let's get heavy, you know.
Yeah.
Especially for for how long ago it was, you know.
Yeah, that's another prime example of how they're really just a pioneer of their time.
Yeah, absolutely.
In many ways.
Well, next up, we have Iron Maiden. We got to talk about Iron Maiden.
Yes, we do.
I'll say this: Iron Maiden was teasing us with a new song, and then the new song dropped, and the new album's coming out September 3rd. And there's nothing written by Dave Murray on that album. I looked at the writing credits. There's nothing written by Dave Murray, which is
really?
Weird.
Have they confirmed? Like, oh yeah, they did show a full track listing, didn't they?
Yeah. And now you said have you even listened to the song yet?
No, I'm avoiding it. I don't want to hear it until September 3rd. A hard rule I set for myself when new bands drop new stuff like this. I wait till the full album's out and then I get everything at once. Because I know if I listen to what's it called? The Writing on the Wall, I think the name of the song is. If I listen to that, I know I'm gonna, even if it ends up being long-term not like one of my favorite Maiden songs ever, it will be my favorite song for the next month because it's new, right? And I know it just in anticipation for the new album that I'll listen to that song over and over and over again. And by the time the album comes out, it'll be ruined for me. You know what I mean? I made this mistake. I made this mistake. The first time I did this was, of course, when I was in high school, and I still am to this day. I'm a huge 3 Days Grace fan. I like some of that like more kind of simple alternative rock stuff. And 3 Days Grace was like my favorite band for the longest time. And they dropped their album 1X in 2006, and they posted the top hit single off of that, Animal I've Become, like months before the album came out. And I listened to it daily. And by the time the album came out, I was like, well, I already know Animal, but I don't know all the other stuff. And like every time I'd listen through the whole album, Animal I've Become always sounded like a song that was just out of place because it didn't feel like it was part of the album, even though musically and, thematically it very much was. But like I kind of ruined it for myself. So like from that day, I was like, if any new bands are putting out new stuff that I want to hear, I'm going to wait. I'm going to just keep my head in the sand and wait till the whole thing is out and then get it all at once. And that way, every single song is fresh. And for me, Writing on the Wall is going to be exactly as much of a fresh first impression as the rest of the album. And I know I'm going to like it a lot more. So I'm waiting. Haven't listened to it. I asked a friend, like what his thoughts were. And he's like, honestly, I don't want to tell you what I thought of it because I don't want to give you any sort of, feedback onto what kind of opinion you should have of it. So mad respect for that friend for doing that for me. I think it was really smart and mature of him. So I didn't hear it.
Well, I guess we can talk about it.
Well, I mean, I'm definitely excited. I can talk about how excited I am that it's coming out because I know they were talking for months about having a new album come out at some point, but we didn't have any idea when. And now they have a release date that's just about a month away. So I'm very excited. I'm super pumped.
Apparently they had this recorded before COVID even hit. Like this was recorded in 2019. Yeah. If I find even stranger though, that you're a 3 Days Grace fan.
Yeah, a lot of people, especially now that I'm like super into like the more complex stuff, like I got like at that point, after that I got like super into Maiden. Was like my next favorite band after them. When I got out of my alternative phase and got into like some more old school heavy metal. And then after Maiden was Dream Theater, and then Dream Theater was the only thing I listened to for like 5 years, But yeah, I don't know. I was always a sucker, even as a kid, for Adam Gontier's voice. I just love his singing voice. I loved his writing style. For me, it was kind of a break from like all the crazy piano stuff that I do. It was cool to have like real simple, like 3 Days Grace in their early days had like this whole kind of they're all Canadian. They had this like kind of country, like campfire aesthetic. Like they wanted all their songs to be simple enough that they could be played on just an acoustic guitar. And I think just the sheer simplicity of how their songs were written in their earlier days, paired up with just how much I loved Adam's voice, it was just something special for me. And I listened to 1X constantly, to the point where like the CD was starting to actually like get scratched and go bad. I actually, you probably can't see it, but on one of my walls, I went to see them at Hershey the year after it came out, and I got them all to sign like the inside cover of the album and got to meet them, and it was awesome. I love that band, you know, and their subsequent albums after that were great. Naturally, I stopped following them once Gontier left, and they got whoever the new guy is. I'm sure he's great, but like I heard a song or two, and I was like, it just doesn't sound like 3DG to me without Adam. So, but yeah, every once in a while I go back and like listen to like their title record or 1X, and just to kind of go down that trip to memory lane like 15, 20 years ago when I first got into them. And it's like, it always hits me emotionally. It's great. Yeah. I've always loved 3 Days Grace. They're a really cool band. And if you don't know them, they're not super well known. They've always been kind of a little less, you know, they've always just been overshadowed by the likes of like Breaking Benjamin and stuff like that, which Breaking Ben is awesome. They're a great band and I love all their stuff too. But 3 Days Grace just has a special place in my heart.
Okay.
So there it is.
I know the Animal song. That's about it. Yeah. So
it's funny as hell. If you like shuffle through my music library, you get like all this crazy prog stuff, and you get Maiden, and you get like Periphery, like crazy, like super heavy, and then like Never Too Late comes on by 3 Days Grace, and it's just like this real gentle, pretty like acoustic guitar thing, and it's like what the. Are you like sharing this playlist with someone else? Like, no, this is just all stuff that I'm into, man.
And that's cool, man. You know, that's
being diverse.
Being a music lover is what it's about. I mean,
yeah,
I own some country albums, so I mean, I think Hal Ketchum, God rest his soul, he was a great country artist. He was one of my favorites. I absolutely love his one album that I had. I got it right after I graduated. A couple friends of mine were really big country fans, so hanging out with them right after we graduated, like I couldn't get into any of it except for this one album by Hal Ketchum, and I bought it and I love it, and I still listen to it now.
That's great.
And it's just one of those things. It's like it's okay to like extreme music and country and a little bit of rockabilly. I mean, I love rockabilly too. I like folk music too, if it's Celtic folk, because I like that stuff. That's a little bit cooler because that's kind of close to like what I like about metal. Like the metal stuff. Like,
you draw a lot of parallels between Celtic folk and metal,
right?
Which is why most folk metal usually has that sort of flavor to it.
Yeah, usually. Right. That's kind of
not always, but usually. So,
that's kind of like I gravitate to like Renaissance music and stuff like that. And that's why I like when Richie Blackmore started doing Blackmore's Night, I'm like, this is fantastic. And everyone else is like, no, it's not. I'm like, no, it is.
Yeah,
it's great. It's awesome. Good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, what else we got?
One more thing about Iron Maiden. I love this meme. It was the picture of Giorgio Tsoukalos, the Ancient Aliens guy. And it says, Iron Maiden is just a setup to fool kids into learning history and literature. I absolutely love that meme. And you know what? It's true.
It's very true.
It's true. I believe it was 11th grade history that I passed 11th grade history, I think it was. One of the high school history classes. It was all about Alexander the Great. And so.
Oh, nice.
It was either 8th grade or 11th grade. I don't remember, but I remember the final exam was, and I think I told the story before. The final exam was to put pretty much in chronological order all of Alexander the Great's,
just right up the lyrics to the song. Alexander.
I was like, oh! Yeah, pretty much. I was like, I know this already. And the other thing that it helped me pass was a literature class. We had to read Rhyme Ancient Mariner. And I already knew it, so I was like, okay,
that's awesome.
Perfect.
Funny enough, you actually shared neither of those two stories. The one that you did share on record in the past was all the stuff off of Peace of Mind.
Right, I did that in college too. Yeah.
So
in college, English lit class, I dissected all the songs from Peace of Mind because they're all about something. And my professor was so impressed by this, and because he thought Iron Maiden, he thought Number of the Beast. Devil worship,
crazy devil worship and noise and nonsense.
Yeah,
has no substance to it at all.
Yeah, he probably thought it was more like Venom and Slayer and stuff like that. And when I was like, no, these songs are about something. He went out and bought the album. He's a Maiden fan, so hey,
up the irons, baby. Yeah,
that's right.
Very cool.
Another thing we got to talk about: Ronnie James Dio's autobiography came out a couple days ago.
Rainbow in the Dark. I am the luckiest man on earth because my girlfriend got me a copy of this.
I know that because she asked me if you were going to buy it, and that's why I messaged you.
And then you asked me.
Pre-order it?
And yeah, no, I totally wanted to grab it like as soon as it came out, but summer for me is always a bit slow business wise. So I'm watching my spending. So I was like, I'll get it maybe like in a couple weeks or a couple months, once business picks back up in September. And then sure enough, she's egging me on like all day, like earlier this week, like, did you check the mail? Did you check the mail? He has, did a package come in? There's a package coming. I'm like, what? She's like, oh, I got you something. I'm like, oh, you don't have to. And then sure enough, so I got it like that night and opened it up and and funny enough, by the time we got the package in the mail, I had completely forgotten about it. It was like one of those things I just put out of my mind because I wasn't going to get it right away. And then I opened it up. I was like, oh, that's right. He released this book and it just came out. It's really, really cool. It's like so it's an autobiography, which naturally much of it is now compiled and edited by his wife, Wendy Dio, and then a really famous rock journalist, Mick Wall, which I'm sure you'd probably know a lot more about him than I do. I mean, I read there's a little blurb about him on like the inside cover of the book and like all the stuff he did. There's a really nice, touching preface by Wendy, of course, talking about all their experience and how Ronnie and Mick got to meet and how Mick's been involved in his life ever since and like how they spent years and years and years going through all his because Dio himself apparently like was really like well written and like documented everything. He had journals and he had like little entries for like every major aspect of his life. So it's really, really cool. So I read the preface to get an idea of what to expect. I'm really excited to read the rest of it. I did the first couple of chapters. I'll go down the list and go over what they are. And what I thought was really cool, the prelude to the after the preface, there's a prelude chapter, which is musically very, very fitting. And that is from Ronnie's perspective the night he headlined Madison Square Garden in 1986. So it's a whole thing of like him being backstage and like seeing his name up in lights and like realizing his ultimate dream. And then at that point saying, I could die tomorrow and I'll be happy because I've lived to my life's dream and I've accomplished my goal, which naturally then he still had an illustrious career for many years after that, even though he did still die pretty early. So yeah, and then it's 17 chapters, goes to about, it's about 240-ish pages. It's actually a pretty short read and it's quick too. I've gotten through the first 2 chapters already. Chapter 1, Rock and Roll Children. It literally starts at the beginning. He goes into like his first day taking a music lesson as like a 5 or 6 year old. And it's like that whole day of like, he remembers like that morning going down to breakfast and like going to the music store and, getting his instrument and all that kind of stuff. I won't say too many details. I don't want to spoil all the fun because there was a lot of stuff about his early musical upbringing that I had no clue about. So that was cool. And then like the second chapter, Stand Up and Shout, it gets into like his like high school years and like putting his first band together and all that kind of stuff. And naturally all the chapters are titled after, really cool stuff. Vegas Kings, Uncle Johnny, Spider's Revenge, Electric Elves, Purple Days, LA 59, Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. There's a whole chapter for Rainbow I'm excited about because I love Rainbow. Starstruck is chapter 10. Wendy's song, Kill the King. Called by the Toll of the Bell, West of Wonder, A Rainbow in the Dark is chapter 15. We Rock. And then the last chapter, chapter 17, is Hungry for Heaven. And then there's, a bunch of acknowledgments and all that kind of stuff at the end of it. So it's been good. It's been really cool. The cover is absolute perfection. Like they could not have gotten a better representation of the artist. There's a really cool shot of him performing on stage on the back cover, which is awesome. So I'm thrilled that I got a copy of this early for me, like I said, compared to what I was planning. So yeah, it's going to be cool. I think you're going to love it. I know you got the audiobook and
I love audiobook.
To it. Same. I should have thought of getting an audiobook myself, but I'll sit down and actually read it. It'll be quicker for me.
Yeah, I'll listen to it, on the way to work when I'm editing video that I don't need, to listen. I always throw an audiobook in. I just haven't had time. I got it right when it came out, because I pre-ordered it through Audible, and so it was there as soon as it came out. I just haven't had time to really listen to it much this week, but I
Hopefully
plan
the
to.
weekend changes that. You have a busy weekend.
This weekend, no. I'm going to cut the grass, swim in the pool. That's what I'm doing.
There you go. Do the first couple bits
and listen to Rainbow in the Dark and listen to the audiobook.
Yeah, awesome.
Now we're going to transition to some bad news.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, I really want to talk about some of these musicians that passed away in the last 2 weeks. I'll start with Jeff LaBar. I wasn't a huge Cinderella fan, the guitar player from Cinderella. I believe Jeff LaBar is a native Pennsylvanian, because Cinderella did. They did come up in the 80s in the New Jersey, Philadelphia kind of region as far as, playing gigs and stuff. So they are Pennsylvanians. I believe he is originally from Pennsylvania, or he settled in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure, but he passed away, I believe, July 14th. Great guitar player. And if you haven't ever listened to any Cinderella albums, I would suggest going back and listening to them. They're not just like the whole hairband thing. There's a little bit more to them. And I've mentioned them before, that revisiting these albums, and I did right before we started this podcast, I went back to revisiting some albums I haven't listened to since I was in high school. And one of them was Cinderella's Long Cold Winter, which is their second album. And other than their really annoyingly horrible ballad that I used to hear on the radio all the time, other than that, the rest of the album is pretty cool. And there's there's a lot of blues influence to it, a lot of bluesy guitar stuff, tasteful stuff in that album that I never noticed when I was 16 years old, but I noticed now. Rest in peace, Jeff LaBar. He passed away. I'm not exactly sure what happened to the guy, but I know he had a lot of problems, and it's been documented. He had a lot of problems with drugs and alcohol that this may have caught up to him. I don't know. I didn't really look that much into it because, again, I'm not a huge Cinderella fan, but
you know them well enough. But
know well enough, But
yeah.
and then next up, the one that I know got to you a little bit was and you could take it from here with the guy from Kansas.
Oh yeah. So we were planning on doing an episode a week or so ago, and that was right when the news there was fresh. Robby Steinhardt passed away.
Well, yeah, that was July 17th. Yeah.
Yeah, so that we would have talked about it last week, but I know we both had a crazy weekend coming up, so we postponed. But we're here to try to catch up on all that stuff, and we want to make sure we take at least a minute to honor the memory of as many of these musicians as we can. For those of you who don't know, Robby Steinhardt was the original violin player for Kansas in their heyday in the 70s, and he played with them on pretty much all of those albums. I forget when exactly he left. The current guy they have now is named David Ragsdale, and he's fantastic too. But, going back to all the original recordings, all the stuff off of things like Point of No Return, Song for America, Left Overture, that's all Robby. And you could hear all that as him playing on that original record. I don't know exactly how old he was when he died, but I feel like he had to have been pretty young, relatively speaking.
Relatively speaking, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know what the causes were. I don't know if it was just of natural causes or what. I'm trying to look that far back into our posts to see if I could find better detail about all that, but I can't seem to find it. But
that was back on July 17th. So he was responsible for a lot of the more known Kansas stuff, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, like all the 70s stuff. I'm wondering if I could get like a full list of... Actually, you know what? I actually have a list written because when I was getting like super into Kansas over the past couple of years, I actually took like an hour one night and like did a little bit of research to like figure out who's in all the albums. And I made a list on my phone that I have of like which albums have which lineups and which musicians are in them. Let me see if I could pull that up.
Okay, while you pull that up, I'll mention that Steinhardt died hospital on Tampa, Florida. It was complications from pancreatitis at the age of 71. And of course, there's a lot of prog rock luminaries that offered their condolences, including like Mike Portnoy was very vocal about the passing of him. Mm-hmm. And, but he apparently he was sick for a while. This just, pancreatitis doesn't just happen. It was.
Yeah, it looks like I found the post by Cindy Steinhardt. The final journey started May 13th when he was first admitted into the hospital.
Yeah.
So, and then 65 days later, on the day he was to be released from medical care and to move to the rehab center to build his strength, his body had other plans. Fever set in, blood pressure became uncontrollable. The sepsis reared its ugly head again. Let's see. Medical staff at Tampa Bay stabilized. He greeted me with a smile, open arms, and kisses. His daughter Becky called. They had a beautiful, happy conversation together. 6 minutes later, as I held him to keep him warm, he died in my arms. 6:30 p.m. Saturday, July 17th. We are beyond devastated as our lives were about to start a new adventure. Robby just recorded his first solo album with talented music producer Michael Franklin at Solar Studios. Tour was supposed to start in August. Robby was very much looking forward to being back on stage, doing what he loved. So he was still an active musician. Which
hopefully that album will come out if it didn't come out already.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing August probably. So we'll have to, keep your eyes peeled, folks, ears to the floor, see if we could get any kind of nice, post-op stuff from Mr. Steinhardt. And looking at my notes here, he was on with Kansas through all the 70s and 80s stuff. The first album that features not him, but David Ragsdale is Freaks of Nature in 1995. So he was with Kansas for a long time. And I feel
was he one of the original members?
Yeah, he was on the first album. He was also on the next album after Freaks of Nature, Somewhere to Elsewhere. He came back, which is a lot of the old hats for that album before they had a little hiatus, at least as far as albums coming out goes. And then Prelude Implicit in 2013 was when they brought David Ragsdale back, and now they have their current lineup, which is even their current line. Like, they go through so many lineup changes because it's such a big band. It's so hard to keep track. It's just like I just have lists and lists and lists of stuff. It's crazy. But anyway.
Oh, rest in peace, Robby.
He will certainly be
next one. Now, as a drummer, I'm not a huge Slipknot fan, but with that said, Joey Jordison was an amazing killer drummer, man. And unfortunately, he passed away age 46, and he passed away, what was said, in his sleep, peacefully at home, with his family around, and I'm not sure why he passed away. It really hasn't been released, but they're saying, what I'm reading here, it was may have been complications from a neurological disease that he had, that he was diagnosed with, that actually led him to leaving or being fired from, depending on who you ask, from Slipknot, because his body just couldn't drum like that anymore because of this condition he had. Sad story, and way too young. Big loss to the new metal and the metal community, because he was just was he a killer drummer. And one thing I could take away from Slipknot, because when Slipknot came out, it was like there's a bunch of clowns in mass, and this is ridiculous. And there's like 17 people in the band, and one guy bangs on a bunch of like I don't know, 50-gallon drums or something. I don't understand this, but as I started listening to it more and got past the silliness of the masks and stuff, I was like, wow, this drummer is doing something really, really, he was really talented, man. And Corey Taylor's a fantastic vocalist, so I don't care.
Yeah, one of my favorite rock singers ever.
I think he's a fantastic vocalist. Him and the drummer, man, him and Joey, I think, were probably, to me, that's what made that band.
They were pretty much like the engine behind it. As far as I understand, like I mean, I like Slipknot a lot, but I don't really know the band super duper well, or as far as their music. Like, I recently just learned from a friend that Joey was not still part of the band, and he's not featured on their most recent album that's set to be released soon.
But, he was let go December 2013. He was let go a while ago.
Yeah, that I didn't know. See, I don't really follow them as closely as I should, perhaps. But as far as I could, just from like magazine articles I've seen and interviews and like stuff I've read online, it seems like Taylor and Jordison were kind of like the creative masterminds behind a lot of Slipknot, at least their early output. And I know eventually, once Corey Taylor branched off and started Stone Sour, I feel like Joey Jordison was part of that too, wasn't he?
I don't know.
I think they kind of broke off and like started that second band, which was pretty much like Slipknot light. It's like a lot more like controlled. It's kind of more.
It's very, very, very
still
like
heavy.
hard rock radio friendly.
Yeah, it's
That's
a lot more
what-
radio
yeah.
friendly. It's really good. If you're a Slipknot fan, you'd probably really enjoy Stone Sour. It's a lot of the same musicians, but and stylistically, it's similar. It's not as like hardcore and extreme as Slipknot is naturally, but it's still really solid music and it's really heavy.
Yeah.
I've always
Yeah,
done
it's way more. It's more
Self-titled.
like melodic hard rock than
Yeah.
what Slipknot. And some people, some heavy metal elitists will say Slipknot isn't even a metal band, and I say bullshit.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm right there with you, Jeff.
You may not like it, but it's not. I mean, you can't say it's not. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. They're
Right.
metal.
And it doesn't mean it's
Get
not
over it.
metal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
The next one, the next one that I gotta mention. This hit me really, really hard because I love this vocalist. Metal Church's singer Mike Howe. His official cause of death was determined asphyxia due to hanging. He committed suicide, according to the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department. That was released today.
Yeah.
The 55-year-old man, they found him dead at the scene. There was no drugs or alcohol that was not believed to be factors in the death. There was no controlled substances or paraphernalia located on the scene. And so that made me really sad. I'm like, oh man, and then and I got to mention this, Metal Church, the band, the official band Facebook page posted something that they took it down because they posted something that was a little confusing, a little vague, and I don't know. They posted something that said Mike Howe was victimized by a failing healthcare system, and he was poisoned by Big Pharma, something along those lines.
Oh, geez.
And I'll read it. I'll quote it from Blabbermouth. As to what really happened, he was victimized by a failing healthcare system and subsequently poisoned by the venom of Big Pharma, they wrote. They're using a term which refers collectively to the global pharmaceutical industry. In short, and in essence, he fell prey to the real fake healer. Now, Fake Healer is a song that they do, a really great song about that kind of stuff. Enough said, #truth. Godspeed, Mike Howe, we love you. It kills me. It really does. I really liked Mike Howe. I was so glad when he came back to Metal Church. He left Metal Church in the mid-90s or early 90s, I believe, and he raised a family. He left Metal Church, left music, became a carpenter and like a real estate agent, I think, or something. And then in 2015, the guys from Metal Church were like, hey, come back. We want you back. Let's do this, because they went through a couple other singers after him. Some of them are good, some of them, no one liked Mike Howe, because that guy has such a crazy voice. It's like one part like the guy from Overkill and one part Bruce Dickinson, like he could scream like the guy from Overkill, or he could scream like the guy from Old Slayer. But he can sound like an operatic power metal singer when he needs to too. In a really unique voice, and really
he always
sad.
gave me Mad Dickinson vibes. I saw him perform when Metal Church opened for Megadeth in 2016,
Right.
and that was my first time ever hearing of the band, let alone hearing the band. And I remember just being blown away by his performance on stage. Wow, this singer is incredible. And then, sure enough, a couple weeks back, we did for one of our homework assignments. He gave me a Metal Church album from it might have been the last one that he did with them before leaving in the 90s, if not shortly beforehand. And it was I recognize that voice. I think it's like the same guy. And then we talked about it. We talked about him to great length that week, and I was really, really happy to learn all that.
Yeah, I gave you The Human Factor, which I still think is their best album. They did one more in the 90s with him after that called Hanging in the Balance, which is a great album also.
Oh, okay.
And then he came back and he did 3 more albums. The latest one they have out is like a covers and rarities kind of album collection that they just put out not too long ago. And I hope there's something still left. I want one more release from Metal Church with Mike Howe singing, because hopefully there's something. Who knows?
Fingers crossed. All we could do is hope now.
Yeah, and an official cause of death is suicide, unfortunately. So I just had to say this, from my heart to everyone. Remember, folks, you never know what's going on inside someone's head, and if if you're feeling like there's nothing left, or there's always something left, there's always something to live for. Just reach out, like someone said, wave your arms up and down and say, hey, I need help. Do something. Don't suffer in silence. Again, we're just passing the anniversary of the guy from Lincoln Park and Chris Cornell, not too long ago. Those guys, and Anthony Bourdain, they all committed suicide, and then this one more, whether or not it was, some kind of drugs he was on, or he was in pain for something, he couldn't get pain meds, or there's a whole bunch of reasons, because, the guys from Metal Church are pointing at Big Pharma, so it makes me think like either it was a reaction to some meds he was on, or he couldn't get the proper meds for the pain he was feeling and just couldn't take it. But who knows? I'm not them. I don't know the band, so I can't really say. All I know is the metal community is worse off now because
they lost their best.
Yeah. So
they lost so many of their best, all in like a week. It's like a weird bolt of lightning just going through a house on the rock world, and we're all upset. It really sucks. Yeah,
it's horrible. Okay, well, I think we covered all the deaths. Oh, we didn't.
No, there's one more.
There's a couple more, but the keyboard player, I gotta mention, there's a keyboard player that played also from Cinderella. He passed away right after Jeff LaBar passed away, and this guy was also known as he was the offstage keyboard player for Kiss on a couple tours also. Because a lot of times when you see these bands, they have an offstage musician. Ozzy has an offstage singer,
Did someone post about him in the Rock Talk group? I don't remember seeing him.
I don't know if he was posted or not. Dusty Hill from ZZ Top.
That's another one. Another
bass player from ZZ Top.
We've basically, I think it might have been Mike Portnoy actually who posted. We pretty much lost like an entire band worth of, we lost a singer, we lost a drummer, we lost a bassist, we lost so many incredible musicians from so many different generations, and it's, of course the younger ones are tragic, sure, but losing some older folks is never easy either, and I
don't know how a band like that would sound if you got Dusty Hill on bass, you have Mike Howe on vocals, you have Jeff LaBar on guitars, you have the other guy from Cinderella on keyboards, and you have Joey from Slipknot on drums.
I mean, they're probably figuring that out in the afterlife right now and having a blast with it, and we'll all get to hear it someday when we're lucky. But yeah, no, it's just so sad. And I'm sure looking at the guys from ZZ Top, I'm sure they're all, probably just like all the Kansas fans felt when we lost Robby. It's like someone that you've spent so many years playing with. Like I can't imagine losing someone after that much time.
ZZ Top has been around for 51 years. The same three guys.
Yeah, I know.
So, like imagine like your friend of 50 years is gone now. That's just,
I can't imagine that.
It's crazy, God bless those guys for sticking to it for 51 years. And sure, they had their heyday. They had two heydays, like ZZ Top of the 70s and ZZ Top of the 80s. Two different groups of fans pretty much, because they became MTV darlings. Like when I learned about ZZ Top was Give Me All Your Lovin', Sharp Dressed Man. I didn't even know they did LaGrange and any other songs like from the 70s until later in life. Like they were not a completely different band, but they had a softer sound, we'll say, in the 80s, and they grew their beards really long, and then they were all about the car, and they were video darlings, which was fine. And they never really, I don't know, they never really they didn't fall out of style, I'll say, ever. Really, I mean, everyone knows who ZZ Top is. Even young kids, you say ZZ Top, like, oh, those guys with the beards and the red car.
Oh, crazy old rock guys, they're cool.
Yeah. But unfortunately, now what I've read today was the band is gonna continue on. They're taking a few weeks off and they're going back on tour because they were starting their tour when Dusty got sick, and they took, I think, a couple weeks off, passed away. They're going to pick up and move on again. So, whatever.
Yeah. So I think that covers all of the major deaths that we've experienced in the past couple of weeks. Hopefully there's not any more anytime soon. I feel like we're all getting hit especially hard this summer.
Now let's close it out with some good news from our friends in Dream Theater.
Yes, you read my mind. I'm looking at that post right now.
Well, tell me about it, because I know nothing about it.
Well, okay, so they just announced, I think this was just yesterday or July 28th at 10 a.m. Dream Theater announced a new album coming out, A View from the Top of the World, complete with album artwork, complete with a full track listing, which includes it's going to be a 7-track album. And of course, most of the tracks are upwards of 10 minutes. It's Dream Theater. The title track, which closes the album out, A View from the Top of the World, clocks in at 20 minutes and 24 seconds. They even posted what are probably some lyrics, in quotes, to stretch beyond our limits, to blaze a brand new trail, bold enough to conquer, brave enough to fail. I don't believe any music has been shown yet, which even if it was, I would turn my blind ear and wait till the album.
Yeah, I didn't look anything up, but I don't think anything's been posted. So when is it supposed to come out?
It drops October 22nd this year. So 10/22/21 it comes out. And they've also announced a tour. Let's see, Top of the World tour. It looks like it's all US shows, which is awesome. And they get the band Arc Echo as their opening, the special guest opening act, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So
we were just listening to them over the weekend.
I'm sure. I'm busting my brother Adam's balls that we have to try to go see one of their shows, because they're coming to Philly, they're coming to Jersey, and they're coming to New York. And I'm willing to make a drive to go see them. Hell, even if I go myself, I don't care. I really want to see this show. I'm sure the music's going to be fantastic. I've never seen Dream Theater with their new drummer, Mike Mangini. And I've just recently gotten into all their newer stuff after Portnoy left, and I really like a lot of it. So I'm excited to see what else they're going to play, in addition to some of the new material, in addition to whatever old material they're still doing. Who knows? I'm really excited. Yeah. So I want to see them. I want to get that album. I'm going to get it when it drops, and I'm going to be a proper Dream Theater fan this time and give it a fair listen and check it out and get excited about it. So I have a really good feeling. It
looks like by the fall we're going to have two hopefully really, really great albums to talk about on the podcast.
Oh, definitely.
You got Maiden coming out in September, you got Dream Theater coming out in October, and I'm still listening to the new Halloween album a lot. So it's like, yeah, hopefully there's going to be a 3-way contender, for my album of the year, which we're definitely going to do at the end of the year, because there's been enough good releases this year that we can actually talk about our favorites of 2021 by the end of the year. Yeah. And when are we coming up on our 1-year anniversary of the podcast?
I feel like we started. I feel like the first episode we did was in September. I want to say you have to look back when episode.
I think you're right. I have to look back, but I think
I
know
you're right. The idea for this podcast was hatched at the end of July last year in preparation for my brother's wedding, which was August 8th. So
preparation. That means we were sitting around drinking
and talking about rock music, and Jeff basically was like, we should just put this on YouTube because people would probably enjoy it. And here we are, 700 members later.
A bunch of guys are sitting around a fire. It was a bachelor party, we'll say. A bunch of guys sitting around the fire. It was a
COVID-friendly bachelor party. We all stayed at home.
It was me and Danton sitting on the one side of the fire, just talking about music, like talking about metal,
as we always do when we get together, because we have that so much in common.
Everyone else talking about everything else, but we're like, metal.
Yeah, and it was awesome and it was fun, and now I'm glad that we get to do that pretty much every week.
Yeah.
So
well,
it's been a fun ride. So we have a couple more weeks, I think, that we'll do some other new content, and then we'll maybe do some celebratory anniversary content. I know I have a growing list of topics that we want to touch on, including more of our genre talks, where we want to get some guests and talk about different specific metal genres. We got these new albums to look forward to that we're definitely going to talk about. And we could always go back and talk more about Iron Maiden because it's our mutual favorite band. So, yeah, we got a lot. Plus, I'll have a lot more to say about Rainbow in the Dark when I've finished reading it. So I'm excited to talk about that. We could do a lot more about Dio. I know Dio was one of the first things we talked about in that first episode. We just did some random bits and then had a whole big thing on Dio. So that might be.
I believe our first episode is called Random Bits of Dio.
I think so. I think you're right. So yeah, we'll have to check the date on when that was and see when Pansy Podcast Productions was birthed.
Well, until then, everyone must check out our Rock Talk Facebook group, of course. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button,
do all the algorithm stuff. You have no idea how much it helps to help promote the channel for, more viewers, to extend our outreach, to continue the conversation with a lot more metalheads, rock musicians, whoever, anyone who's into music has a welcome spot in our group. So, check out the Facebook group, as Jeff said, check out the rest of our channel, check out, Jeff has tons of other content on that channel already, Pansy Podcast. I have a teacher talk show that I do with fellow teachers and scholars. We do all kinds of fun stuff there. So check it all out. Have fun. Keep listening to music.